Growing up, all I wished for was everyone to like me. I didn't care who did, but as long as they did like me, that's all I cared about. I valued any friendship with anyone whatsoever. I didn't understand how to tell a good friendship from a bad one, because in the end, the goal was to be accepted, and to be adored. There is no time to assess whether X person is bad or a good influence on my behavior. Now let's talk about Ibrahim alayhi salam. This is a man who had a much different perspective on that matter. People were not his final destination in finding happiness. It was a much bigger game than just having a best friend to confide in or being just really popular. The focus was about raising as many people around him towards a higher vision, a higher place altogether. Ibrahim is observing the worship of idols amongst his people. And Allah documents his statement here in Surah Al-Ankabut. وَقَالَ إِنَّمَا اتَّخَذْتُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْثَانًا مَوَدَّةَ بَيْنِكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا ثُمَّ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكْفُرُ بَعْضُكُم بِبَعْضٍ وَيَلْعَنُ بَعْضُكُم بَعْضًا وَمَأْوَاكُمُ النَّارُ وَمَا لَكُم مِّن نَاصِرِينَ. And he, Ibrahim, said, "You have adopted idols instead of Allah only because of love you have with each other in the worldly life. Then on the day of judgment you will reject each other and will curse each other. And your abode is the fire, and you will have no helpers." Now look at how sharp Abraham's insight is in terms of understanding the reality of human relationships. Everyone was getting along with everybody for the sake of, false idols. And instead of feeling tempted to join their company, Ibrahim saw the ultimate end of it all. And that is that these friendships ultimately can't last forever. They were based on a godless foundation. He even calls them out on their reasoning, being that they are putting the truth aside for the sole reason of establishing affection and friendship between each other. And that makes sense. That's why we would become friends with anyone, really. But Ibrahim's point is that this is short-sighted. These friendships are weak, built on a poor foundation of disbelief and disobedience. And we don't just get a change of perspective, we get a peek into their future on the last day. And sadly, you find each one of them cursing the other for the times wasted in their misguided lifestyle. Most importantly, the true faith that each kept the other from embracing because of their so-called love. The point of this is that we really understand that friendships don't come with an exclusive card of an infinite subscription, We might play our cards right in this world, but to keep that love in the next life, it comes with a price. And that price is explained in Surah Al-Zukhruf when Allah says, "Al-akhilla yawma'idhin ba'duhum li ba'din adu illa al-muttaqin." Friends on that day will become enemies to one another, except the God-fearing, as in the ones who have taqwa. With this reality being revealed to us, it is implied we should try to pay extra attention to the substance of our relationships with people. Especially the ones that we give most of our time and energy to, our buddies, friends, whoever you find yourself associating yourself with. We are taught here how our friendships today will not ultimately last forever, unless Allah happened to be the foundation of these bonds in the first place. Anyway, so when Allah is absolutely absent, we might be surprised to find ourselves enemies that day, and that wouldn't be such a pretty scene. But that doesn't mean we run away from those people and hide under a rock. This message encourages us to reorient our focus and beautify our existing friendships, making taqwa or God consciousness to be, at the center stage of all that we engage in, whether it's conversations, activities, and aspirations that we can support each other to achieve, reaching a level of that sincerity and value that one wouldn't expect in the first place. I once knew this guy in one of my college classes, and we didn't talk much. One day he asked me to cheat him on a quiz, and I told him that this isn't something I do. I don't cheat. Basically, I said something in the lines of, "It's wrong and I won't cheat you on your quiz, buddy." So I didn't think much of what I said at the time, but he was apparently so moved because in all his life, no one ever made him hit a brick wall like that. No one took such a strong stance on not helping him cheat on a quiz. One day, I find him walking along with me to the mosque. Another day, he shares with me books about the Quran. We're not like, two sheikhs in white garments. I trip, he trips. I help him get up, he helps me get up. Safe to say, I'm glad I didn't run and hide under a rock when he enticed me to cheat him. It really would have been my loss, This isn't a black and white thing. Yes, we should strengthen our bonds and our friendships and try to avoid the bad ones, but even those friends of ours that we might at first think they're not the religious type, We need to, I think, give them a chance to be elevated, and they deserve that, and not to be gave up on so easily. Perhaps they will be the ones that sustain your faith on the long run. You never know. Allah's light is impeccable. And maybe you can think I was just lucky. Maybe it's generally not that easy to find even one person that remotely resembles what you find important and valuable. And so with that being said, let's go back to Ibrahim alayhi salam. That man was called by Allah a whole nation or an ummah all by himself. In Surah An-Nahl, Allah says, "Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanitan lillah, hanifan wa lam yakun min al-mushrikeen." Surely Ibrahim was an ummah, a whole community by himself, devoted to Allah, a man of pure faith, and he was not among those who associate partners with Allah. The meaning here seems to suggest that if one is guiding others towards good, inspiring others to have a productive footprint left behind by being a role model representing the faith, then this qualifies this individual to be a nation. It's quite an ambition to have, but how, can we be nations or even aspire to be? I think it's best we start, little tiny initiatives by ourselves with anyone in our circle, whether it's family, the neighborhood, or the whole community you reside in. These little projects, they'll be like seeds. It will grow and sprout, and soon enough, people are going to start to notice, and they're going to be coming to you, right, with their own ideas. Sometimes Allah will leave you to be by yourself in this world with minimal company for some time in order for Him to make you close, like a friend would. وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. And Allah took Ibrahim as a friend. And following that beautiful friendship, you'll be inspired enough to initiate the trends yourself and act as a magnetic force of ideas and responsibility for many to follow. So don't underestimate the role of inspiration, even if you're all by yourself, all alone. Ibrahim alayhi salam is our role model in that regard, and this is a lovely way to follow the legacy he left behind. What kind of things do I mean? Well, I'm sure there's a ton out there we can think of, but I will share two I practically tried doing. So one is going out and taking in close family members and friends to buy meals and distribute them all around the city to those in need. And this is a feeling that can only be described once you see these people's smiles. Most importantly, it will also move those around you, and I guarantee these effects will be propagated in ways you can't even imagine. So trust me when I tell you, a lot of people would love to do these activities, but they just don't know how or who they can do it with. And everyone is probably too shy to take that first step. Hence, this is your opportunity to step up. I like to do a Quran study group for one surah every Ramadan, so you never know what good can result from these small gatherings reflecting on a few verses. It doesn't have to be too fancy. You just have a credible translation you can trust, listen to how it's recited, and reflect together, what these meanings mean in your daily lives. And let me tell you something personally. I was a part of a Quran study group just 6 years ago where I learned the first 3 ayahs and their meaning or translation in Surah Yusuf. And now here I am sharing a verse about Surah An-Nahl to tell you start your own gathering to do the very same thing. So this is just my side. I'm sure there are wonderful ideas with each of you as well. Really though, yes, it takes a lot of courage to take these steps, and start these initiatives. But keep in mind, it's a prophetic honor to take those close to you by the hand and start something special. May Allah make us nations by ways of spreading good. May Allah place us in friendships bonded by our love for Him. And of course, as always, I just want to remind you, this is not a tafsir. This is a reflection on the established meanings of the verses amongst our scholars. I'm not your neighborhood scholar or your teacher. I'm just some Muslim kid.